Pressure is certainly mounting now with the second league loss of the season. Of course, there was going to be a bit of criticism aimed at the manager, Erik ten Hag, and he made the headlines in his post-match press conference with a prickly response to questions over his tactical performance.
Mistakes that your team made today are the mistakes that they've been making for 2 years. And what makes you confident that it's players that are the problem and not your coaching?
So what do you mean? Tell me then, explain me. Maybe you can explain me which mistakes we make regular.
Well, constantly turning the ball over in your own half, playing the ball out from the back, getting mugged, chances come on the back of it, counter-attacks when you're outnumbered, giving up endless chances in your own stadium against the team's biggest rivals. With the greatest respect, I've been seeing that for so long now.
You are sure?
Absolutely.
I don't think otherwise you wouldn't win trophies as we did and to beat big opponents. So I'm sorry for you. I have another vision.
You wouldn't, with the greatest respect, played brilliantly against City in that final. You almost lost to Cambridge in the semi-final. I mean, come on, let's have a realistic view of what happened there.
I think we won after City the most trophies in English football. So I'm sorry for you.
Crookie, that was a tough watch. I mean, you yourself were on the end of a frosty reception from Erik.
We always have to do hard work, but we can't work with our team. We know where we want to go, and we have to keep working on our structures, but also work on the mentality, work on the fitness, because some of our players they have their first start in the season. Hopefully they can play some games for the nations coming weeks, but hopefully also that they stay fit.
Erik, you mentioned mentality a couple of times there. Is there a concern?
I don't think I didn't mention one time mentality.
You literally just said mentality.
I don't think.
Okay, but do you think there is an issue with the mentality? Because you were in the game until 1-0 and then the players seemed to fade away very quickly.
No. I think we were in the game, as you say. We make a mistake, but I think the team showed resilience. They kept fighting for each other. They stick together. They still executing the plan, and they dealt with the mistakes they make. And I think that is good from the team. And I think there's also a platform to continue in the season.
There's no denying that Erik is right about the trophies. We can't deny that. But is this a terrible look for the manager after this defeat? And what was your own exchange like?
Yeah, I think it is. And as I mentioned earlier, I don't think he was necessarily expecting Ian Ladyman there from the Mail to come back with such a comprehensive list of failings. But actually, he didn't really push back against any of them, other than to say that we've won more trophies than City, we've won the FA Cup last season. Both factually correct, but also factually correct is that he oversaw the worst Premier League season in Manchester United's history in terms of a finishing position. So you can't airbrush history. You can have teams and managers who are very good in cup competition but aren't quite able to replicate that in the league. And I would be worried if I was Erik ten Hag that maybe I'm being pigeonholed as one of those managers. And in terms of me, I mean, he literally questioned the players' mentality. And then when I asked him, because I wanted to speak about mentality anyway, so it was like a bingo light going off my head when he used the word. And then when I said to him, "You've mentioned mentality there," no, I didn't. And it wasn't 2 minutes early, it was literally 15 seconds. So I think he is coming across as a little bit delusional.
How did you feel from a takeaway from that, Crookie, like, towards the manager in terms of, do you feel like you're seeing cracks now? He's starting to buckle under the pressure. And, you know, from a fan perspective for yourself and obviously a journalistic perspective, how are you viewing the man Erik ten Hag now when you're seeing these types of responses?
I'm a little bit saddened by it, I think, probably is the overriding emotion, because I think he's a nice guy. I think he's treated the media largely with respect. I think he's carried himself with great dignity in the face of a lot of criticism, some of it warranted, some of it not. I didn't like some of the questions he was asked after winning the FA Cup. I thought that was a little bit classless from certain people in our industry. But yeah, I think he did look like a man under pressure. I mean, when you've used a word and then you deny it a few seconds later, that isn't a brilliant look. And yes, I take into account the language barrier, but he just looks to me as someone who is looking to come out punching now, and I'm not sure he's punching with any great authority.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and just come to you in a sec, I just feel like I was already irked by his pre-match comments when he said, obviously, after City we're the most successful team. Again, factually correct, but I think if we're not careful, if he keeps going down that line, he's beginning to normalise being a cup team. And at Manchester United, that's not what we are. That's not acceptable here. Now, I understand in the 6 years before he came, etc., we hadn't won a trophy. You've said that now. We're very grateful for getting the Carabao Cup. We're extremely grateful for getting the FA Cup. These are supposed to be springboards into your bread and butter. And where you're truly judged is what you're doing week in, week out in the league. And what he's basically saying is, well, that doesn't matter because I feel sorry for you. When we get near the end of the season, we will be there for trophies. So what are we saying now? Is it OK to finish 7th again, but we get the Europa League and that gets us into the Champions League? No. Yes, we'll all go to the Europa League final and celebrate if we win it and get into the Champions League. But if we finish 7th again with negative goal difference and getting beat every week, going into games not knowing whether we're going to win, whether we're going to lose, whether we're going to get paced in, it's not good enough. And I think it's a scary situation now. When I look at it as a fan and I'm looking at the manager, it looks uninspiring. And that's the bit that I didn't ever want to start feeling as a Man United fan, because I too, like Crookie, like yourself, like probably a lot of you at home, I want to see Erik succeed. I've said I want to give him the opportunity to fix what went wrong. And 3 games is not giving someone enough time to fix what happened last year. So I get that. But on the road to redemption, mate, you've got to give a bit of buyback, and you can't be out here normalising cup runs.
That whole cup thing is irritating the life out of me. And this is why this man is delusional, because to genuinely sit there and be like, oh, we've won, stop using this excuse of, oh, look at these 2 trophies I've got. We've been terrible week in, week out. Those fans are going to those games and leaving disheartened, disappointed, let down. That is not good enough. And it really, really annoys me.
Do you think it's arrogance? Because he's basically saying, I win.
Yeah.
I win. He said it at the end of, during the FA Cup vibe when he didn't know if he was
I'll go and win trophies elsewhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's backing yourself, which is good, but do you think it's coming across borderline arrogant?
Yeah, he's arrogant and he's delusional. That's how he's coming across. And I agree with what both of you have said. The majority of Man United fans, including myself, we want to see him win. We want to see him do well. This isn't like, the Arsenal fans with Unai Emery or the Chelsea fans with Sarri, for example, or like
hounding them out.
We don't hate this guy. Like, we genuinely want him to do well, because Man United fans are sick of, on this kind of this merry-go-round of managers, and we just want stability. Like, we just want this team to be stable and to be consistent. So, cup games. Listen, I'm not taking anything away from the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, but that is one game of football. Obviously, you have games in order to get to the final, but the day of a final is one game of football where you have to show up. And that's great, but there's a whole campaign as well that you've got to think about, and that's what really, really aggravates me. But the Ten Hag thing for me, like I say, everyone backs him. But that game, the manner in which we played, the comments that he's made, the attitude of the players, the fact that I'm convinced that he's losing the fans now. I agree, 3 games. I don't think you can sack him after 3 games. You have to give him a bit of time. But it's like the clock has started ticking now 100%. For me. It's like it's the countdown now to him definitely going. And I was always backing him to not go. Like, no, we've got to back him.
But you feel it feels like that clock has now started.
It feels
into
like
the beginning of the end.
when that even that first goal, but let's say from that full-time whistle, it felt like, right, the game's on now. The clock has started ticking as we are now going to get closer and closer to Erik Ten Hag leaving the club. And I never wanted that to happen, but that's how it feels for me.